the deepest depths of the dark web. Dark of the night.
Welcome to the Dark of the Night.
Hello, night crawlers. Welcome again.
You know, Eric, it's great to be here with you to discuss whether this is the end of the world. I want to ask right up top, right away.
Yeah.
How's the feed looking on your end? You know, we've been trying to be sensitive to how the feed's looking.
Yeah. I'm taking a look right now.
I'm seeing
Yep.
classic live episodes on our feed right now. Yep.
Are you? No, I'm seeing us.
That's good. Very good.
Paranormal discussion. Is this the end of the world? Ed Toast says he sees us. Welcome, Ed Toast. As
welcome.
always.
Well, that's a relief, Eric. Thank you, Nightcrawlers, for joining us. It's a heavy-duty discussion tonight, Eric, and I think I'm going to make a promise to you that if I see a chance for levity or, you know, just not comic relief, but just a chance to sort of say, like, hey, it's me. We're here together. I'm gonna try to find different ways to say that to you and to everybody out there.
Yeah, because that's good, because it is going to be a little bit of a serious subject, and we're going to talk through a lot of things that we're passionate about, and make us think about mortality, make us think about some of the larger questions in life. And so I think that's appropriate. If there's an opportunity for levity, both of us should seize it. And hello, Weenus Grabber, and thank you for the sort of the report about the stream. We appreciate it.
So, let me kick things off by saying this is another one of our streams in a series of what I want to call our Dark of the Night rehabilitation series, right, Eric? It's like where we're in a diaspora right now between permanent studio setups.
That's true. We are in sort of a wilderness phase, and we've been here before. But, you know, actually, if you think about it, you can be really optimistic, because in times past, when we haven't had a permanent studio, it's been much more of a shit show is kind of the word that comes to mind, even though I don't like to curse. Wouldn't you agree that now we seem to be getting better at kind of riding the waves?
Yeah,
here we are again.
We're getting better at saying, you know, this is awful. I have no choice.
Yeah, we're getting better at saying, "Come at me,
come
bro."
at me, and please stop.
That's right. But we're here, we're now, and we're not giving up. Nightcrawlers, I may mention this again, but I wanted to do a little quick advertisement. If you've been around for the last 4 or 5 shows, you may remember that Alex and I are actually upping our content per week. We're actually doing individual episodes in addition to our regular Dark of the Night meeting of the minds, where Alex and I, you know, that's of course the heart and the core of the show will always be the two of us tackling the tough paranormal issues. But I am going to be doing a solo stream on Monday, starting next Monday, and we'll see if it remains on that day. But for the next week, and maybe subsequent Mondays, I'm going to be doing Eric's Arcanum, which is going to be a trip into virtual reality. So I would ask you to join me on Monday at, well, I don't really know what time, but I will announce it, and I hope you're there.
And it's not that we expect you to have your entire days set aside for our content. but we just can't imagine not having enough time to have no schedule and still be like, I will show up. You know what I mean? Because we've sacrificed everything to the extent that it's not even that. Personally, I don't have to cancel things. I have no opportunities to make other appointments.
Yeah, Alex and I, we in one way, we are the busiest men on the planet, and in another way, we don't have anything to do. And so in between the two of those extremes lies sort of a tit and a tat that we bounce between. And so in the case of you being available to watch our content, we kind of expect you to be on the tit side of that equation.
Eric, let's launch things off by reciting together the Dark of the Night Creed, and I will lead it. I will lead a reading. You okay. Along with the Nightcrawlers, can repeat after me. We are the Nightcrawlers.
We are the Nightcrawlers.
We will always search for the paranormal truth.
We will always search for the paranormal truth.
Friends through eternity, loyalty, honesty.
Friends through eternity, loyalty,
we'll
honesty.
We'll stay together through thick or thin.
We'll stay together through thick
or
thin.
I'll show you everything with arms wide open.
I'll show you everything with arms wide open.
Here comes a ghost.
Here comes a ghost. I'll stab you.
The end of the world is now the end of the world. What's your immediate take on that?
Well, my immediate take is it sure doesn't look good. I don't know if we're in a point in history where it's the end of the world, or if we're in a period of history where we're going to face some sort of major global catastrophe. But it seems like we're kind of moving and towards some sort of a cliff. That's the way it feels to me. What do you think, Alex?
There's so many things at once that are coalescing, to use a word that describes what's going on. And you have things that border on the paranormal that are only paranormal in the sense that they have not yet happened, but they are being researched by major companies that are as powerful as companies that would only exist in the wildest imaginations of conspiracy theorists. They have such far-reaching powers, but they're now hidden in plain sight, researching AI, researching gene editing, researching new weapons that we can't even imagine.
Yeah, this is a topic we could go deep into, and we're going to, because we have time to kill. But, you know, I was watching a show the other day, one of the CSI shows, and there was a commercial featuring a rapper named Common. And Common, he did a rap, and he was talking about, we've got AI, we've got drones, and we're using our technological this and that, and it was over my head for sure. But I just thought, boy, this sounds like the script is some sort of a sci-fi fantasy from 1923. And here it's a commercial now with a guy who is not even one of the top rappers. And so you think to yourself, geez, things are just snowballing and escalating so fast. And Alex, what it does is it makes it difficult for you and me. And what I mean that in this way, when we started this show 15 years ago, on VHS cassette, there wasn't such a blurring of the line between fact and fiction. It was very clear that, like, there are monsters, there's Sasquatches out there, but he's knocking on your cabin door in the woods. Aliens are stopping a 57 Chevy and putting probes up people's rear ends. But now it seems as though there's Harvard scientists talking about there may be alien civilizations visiting our solar system. You've got killer robots that are being talked about on the floor of the UN. And it makes people like you and me that are good old-fashioned truth hunters say, what's this world coming to? I mean, we can't keep up with the pace of the conspiracies.
Yeah. One of the things I want to say is it's unbelievable gut reaction. You know, honestly, just a gut reaction. It's unfucking believable that these people are kind of showing up. These, Martin come latelys, these jackass come sooners, and they're showing up and they're saying, hey, I've lived here for 1,000 years. And it's like, no, you just can't. You just walked in.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, it's not just. I mean, we're getting it from both ends because it's Anderson Cooper, now putting on the conspiracy hat, and he's so good looking, and he's a Vanderbilt, for goodness sake. I mean, we're not going to be able to compete against that. He's ripped. And so yeah, him on the one hand. On the other hand, here on Twitch, I was looking about half an hour ago, and there was like 18-year-old super hot teeny boppers, like in a show very similar to this in little boxes, and they're like, what do you think about Atlantis? It's like, hey, go make out with each other. Go play, be a quarterback. Leave this to me and Alex. This is all we got. Don't elbow your way into our territory. Gut reaction. It's like we're two vultures, just like chewing through skeletons in a desert. And we're just miserable. Like we are. And we found a little bit of marrow in one of those bones, and we're both kind of licking at it.
And man, it's just like, okay, let's sort of crystallize our identities around this marrow. And then all of a sudden Las Vegas gets built around the marrow. And we're just like, and then we're like, well, but where are we gonna go? And they're like, well, you can clean our fucking toilets because we're gonna kill you. I mean,
yeah, that is what it's like.
And again, the metaphor is loose because in a certain sense, I'm making everything up that I'm saying because I don't know how to describe what I'm talking about. It's so new. I mean, here we are on the edge of Armageddon, right? And all of a sudden, you have companies that are selling the technology. It's like I'll tell you what has been done before. You've seen satirical or literary depictions of dystopian futures, right? But
sure.
What you have not seen is those dystopian futures come to fruition in spite of the fact that they have been depicted, and unironically that dystopian future is then enacted.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, we all saw Terminator 2, and one would think that after you see that movie, you would say, well, let's not just develop autonomous killer robots. Maybe that would be sort of, if there's one takeaway, there would be there's a few obvious ones. Linda Hamilton's she's a very hot. Eddie Furlong is not a great actor.
I'm going to throw something out.
Yeah.
Just reacting off what you're saying. Maybe the one thing that makes people be like, maybe Terminator 2 is an okay idea, is like, well, Linda Hamilton will be there.
And I think you nailed it right there. People all they care about is who's hot. And they're willing to stake the end of the world.
And
on
we're
who's
hot.
No, we're not hot.
No.
I mean,
see, that's not fair.
I don't feel
we are.
When I turn on Twitch and I see, nah, I'm gonna show my boobies and play, Battlestar shit. Fuck.
No,
don't
be. And I don't say this. I don't say this facetiously, and I sound angry. And it sounds, even to me, it sounds like I'm lying. But what you're just doing right now is turning me on.
I mean, I can't ignore that because it's frozen. It's now on our.
Well, there's a reason I stopped talking afterwards. It's so that you could drink that in.
Yeah. No. Well, but see, let's just we'll kind of push that aside but get to the meat of what you were saying that was good, and it was essentially agreeing with me in the sense that these things that are happening now, they're almost self-parody, but in the most evil, terrible way possible.
Well, that's exactly it. It's like, I mean, again, just speaking completely extemporaneously, this is not a planned, prepared statement. I look at what's going on today, and we're digging into the idiosyncratic on this show with the Nightcrawlers, with our paranormal community, when we're looking at the way in which possible Armageddon is shaping up, with the final war, with all paranormal forces and aliens and ghosts and and not literally Frankenstein, but things that were built in the way that Frankenstein was built. Things that are let's just for shorthand, let's call them Frankensteins. Them all together versus just people who look like G.I. Joe toys.
Right. Well, look, and you make a good point. I'm really encouraged to see. We got a lot of great people in the chat right now. Ed Toast is encouraging us to forget those other channels. This is the only one he tunes in for. That's awesome.
Lee Chin, great to see you.
Lee Chin is in the. That
Professor
is
Student is
Professor Student, the original from from the beginning. We've got a lot to be thankful for because the Nightcrawlers they support us so much, but we're talking about a subject that is going to evoke extreme feelings because it's the end of the world, right?
Let's try to ground. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I mean, one of the things that I think that we've both been doing is we've just been unloading on each other so far. And it's I want to invite everybody to unload on everybody else in here and say what's on your mind, kind of get that out, jam those different thoughts into the chat and kind of spread them around.
I'm wondering because I'm looking at the chat and there's Unopposed Beetle, which is a name that I'm not super familiar with. I feel like maybe I've seen Unopposed Beetle in the chat before, but he's inquiring about Professor Student. And I'm wondering, Unopposed Beetle, I'm not sure you actually know who Professor Student is. I would like to invite you, if you can tell us what episodes he's been featured in. There was one in particular was a major Professor Student episode, and I want to know if you can name that episode. Then we will give you a hearty round of applause.
We also, I short tangent there. We owe Ed Toast a $10 McDonald's gift card.
Oh yeah, did we ever
No,
do
we
that?
got to do that. God damn it. Ed, we get paid next Friday, and we will make an initial payment.
Unopposed Beatles says Bloody Mary. Was Professor Student on Bloody Mary?
Well, you
episode?
know, it's the right era. It's definitely the right era.
That's the right era. We look, beggars can't be choosers, and I'm not saying
I kind of think.
but
I kind of think. I mean, yeah. All right. Let's keep. What's everyone's thoughts on the end of the world? Is it happening now, in whatever form? You know, it is kind of fucked up that, you know, when the initial depictions of the end of the world, and they're really the fictional literary depictions of the end of the world, other than the biblical and religious depictions of the end of the world, they're really only, they're new to the late 19th and 20th century and this century. And so it's strange to living in a period where we really are sort of reenacting fictional depictions of Armageddon. It's strange. It's very strange.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know that is why I feel like there is a set of leaders in the world right now that are orbiting around sort of these power plays, and then and I'll lump in some of the, you know, hot Twitch streamers and Instagram sex symbols, the thirst traps of the world. They're all in it together,
everyone who I'll say this, I'll agree with that, and I'll say everyone who I'm jealous of is more powerful than me, and is probably in some way, even if sort of loosely, teaming up together against me.
I think that's a sort of a fair assessment, and on the other hand, there are a few leaders that are sort of pointing us towards, well, one thing that comes to mind is pointing us towards the stars. Elon Musk, I think that there's good things about that guy, and I think that there's bad things about that guy, but at least he's painting a picture of a vision where the human race seeds the stars, and seeding the stars is something that you and I believe in, Alex. And that's a hopeful vision.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Good things about Elon Musk, hopeful vision of the future. Looks towards the visions of scientists like R. Buckminster Fuller, and says, we have the resources now to cut off. We have the human wherewithal to say, we see enough down the road, and we're not going to create AI and killer robots that can destroy us. We're going to use technology to feed the hungry. We're going to use technology to better ourselves. On the con side, and, you know, he smokes weed, and he has gained weight recently, and you can see that. And you know, when I see someone gain weight, I have to wonder, are you weak? Because, you know, because I'm sort of, you know, I could stand to lose some weight, and I know I'm not a great, I don't, you know, again, if you're not stronger than me, I like to think that I could defeat you in all ways.
Well, there is an irony to the idea that we are not sort of physical specimens, and we're both kind of lamenting and jealous of some of the titty streamers, as somebody in the chat earlier put it. But at the same time, we're very judgmental about other people who are
and that's
larger
not
in
gender
size.
specific.
No, I free the nipple, I guess. Guys can take their shirts off, and we can see their
Anybody
nipples.
who's willing to jump on Twitch and start fucking or sucking while playing Call of Duty or Resident Evil 2, the original PS1 classic release or the new one, if you're sucking or clucking, I've been
Well, I mean, I see where you're going.
If you think you're cock of the walk, then you can suck my one.
Yeah, well, the important thing is that all of those people are sort of in league together, but the point is that you started to kind of make these assessments of Elon Musk's appearance, and I can't say that we are like holier than thou, that we don't have personal preferences in terms of who we want to look at. And if I'm going to choose a leader to take me to another planet and start another civilization, I want him to kind of be more jacked than I am. I wish that Abraham Lincoln looked a little bit better, to be honest. I wish that Martin Luther King was a little more trim. But nevertheless, at the same time, I mean, look, you're going to choose a fat Elon Musk, or you're going to choose a hot Logan Paul.
I mean, here's one of the reasons why it's hard for people to process, right? Whether it's the end of the world. Some of the main players, right, in the end of the world. Let's take Mark Zuckerberg, or as I call him, M. Fuckerberg. Sorry, I just.
I don't know why you
because
call him that.
M is French for Monsieur.
Okay, well.
So
Sure.
Look. He's sort of, I guess I don't know. I don't know if people consider him attractive or not, but he's certainly not the he wouldn't be cast as himself in a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not a Hollywood depiction of good looks.
No, and I don't know why we're spending all this time talking about his Elon Musk's appearance, but I'll do you one better. He got a hair transplant. Have you seen him pre-hair transplant? No. Well, he looked even worse.
Well, here's why we're talking about this, Eric. It's because I think that if one of the reasons it's difficult to grasp whether the end of the world is happening right now, whether it's a paranormal cause like the coming of the Antichrist, or one of or Beast from X-Men, is because the big players, the major players in our world don't, the people who are look like they should be in Hollywood movies are in Hollywood movies. The people who are the main players don't necessarily look like we'd expect them to. And maybe when a couple heroes come along, like a couple of night cowboys who have shotguns that shoot knives and whips out of it, they look at them and say, well, they can't save us. They're a little fat.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do say. I mean, look, we've got 10 people watching the stream, and I'm not complaining. I'm thankful for all 10. And I want to actually leech in. I want to call out a couple of things they're saying. Leech in is talking about attractiveness is scientifically measured by the amount of nipples a specimen has. I mean, that's an interesting theory. I suppose if you're talking about some sort of like a dog, for example, if he came upon another dog, a female dog that had only a couple of nipples, then it would be a big turnoff. And then the hippie Steve remarked, like Comic Book Beast or Kelsey Grammer Beast, I had totally forgotten Kelsey Grammer starred as Beast in an X-Men. Is that true?
I believe it was X-Men 2.
Yeah, that's so strange.
And if that movie had a subtitle, I'd want to say it would be X2, The Jig Is Up, because it's when people started to realize those movies weren't good.
But was that the one where Nightcrawler was in the White House and he was teleporting around and kicking a bunch of people in the face? Or is that a different one?
I think that was the one. And I'm pretty sure that was that Alan Cumming?
I don't know. I've heard that name.
I feel like it was Alan Cumming. What? But
well, but the point that was being made was that you were saying that basically we were making this correlation between attractiveness and people's expectations about who's going to save the world, and we don't look past us. Sure, we eat a lot of bad food, and that's why we've got a few more pounds. But I mean, what do you expect us to eat? We're not going to eat salads when we're in the middle of a freak
if you want to be saved, then you will need to understand that when we show up, it's sort of like in Star Wars where it's like, oh, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? Like what I would have said.
Yeah.
What Princess Leia would have said to me is, you're fat, or not you're fat, but like you look
bad.
Well, yes, you look like you're sort of phasing out of sort of controlling yourself in many fronts.
And then you know what you do? You press that button and just leave her in there, and then press another button, and they send that torture droid back.
Get the prop back in here that has the syringe, is what I'd say. Because
she likes that.
It's like get that plastic ball that they painted with they painted with the high gloss black paint, and they put out lots of plastic nodes that didn't do anything, but it has
because it didn't seem to affect her.
No, she did. She looked a little scared. But the point is this: if two kind of fat guys show up and they're like, "We're going to save you," and you're like, "No, thanks. I'll wait for Katy Perry and Mark Zuckerberg," I'm going to say, "Well, get ready to get fuckerberged, because you've chosen poorly," to quote the E.E. Cummings. E.E. Cummings, the Knight Templar from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah, and that's the point. That's what we're saying. I mean, look, when there's going to come a day where we're going to need all these extra pounds, and it's going to be when we face against some sort of a level 3 phantasm who is got us sort of pinned up against the wall for multiple days, and our bodies start to eat that fat, or maybe we're up on a alien ship and they're not feeding us very well, or Sasquatch has us down in a cave that he dug, and he's just pinning us down in there, and we can't eat.
If I get beamed up to, if I break it, like jump to 2080, and let's assume that by that point, there's kind of a prosumer grade version of immortality, so that I can sort of partake in some form of youthfulness, so that I could sort of, I'm not Matt Damon Good Will Hunting, but I'm like Matt Damon now, where it's kind of like for the past like sort of 15 years, it's like, is he getting older? It's not clear.
Yeah, but he's definitely getting laid.
Yes, for sure. And let's say I'm Matt Damon now. Now meaning 2019, and I'm alive in 2080, and I beam up to I break in to the rich person's compound, the space station that's orbiting our broken planet. And I am overweight. I eat just too much always.
Oh, that'll be add insult to injury.
For who?
Well, they'll be especially ashamed because they'll be like, not only did this scumbag from the underworld come to our pristine planet and make everything terrible, but he's also fat.
Yeah, it's like, guess what? Get ready for your big fat Greek wedding, you pieces of shit. And that'll be an insult to injury because it's an insult. Well, I'm calling them
and you're going to injure them.
Yeah. It's very cool. I mean, I guess what is it? What we're saying, what it amounts to is there are ways. Is this the end of the world? Quite possibly. There are positive ways, Nightcrawlers, of dealing with it by saying, yeah, I am a big piece of shit, and you are going to love it.
Yeah, and that is sort of a piece of what I think that an appropriate, healthy response is to the end of the world. Because at the end of the day, what can you change? You can't change a whole lot about yourself or about the world.
No, the dead are going to rise from the grave.
What?
Is that not one of the things you depict at the end of the world?
No. Yeah. But the truth is you just got to accept it, and then you got to try and say, I'm okay with myself, and I'm okay with the fact that things aren't going so great in my personal life, and I wish things were different, but this is kind of just the road I'm on. And I'm going to kind of just incrementally make little steps to try and be better in the 19 minutes I've got left to live on this planet because it's going to be destroyed.
It's less about, I'll say this, to reinforce what you've said. It's less about, is the end of the world coming? Well, you can't control that. You can't. But what you can control is your attitude and how you react to it. So if you have, Eric, just a few minutes left, and you, for instance, like me, keep putting off getting a haircut, go. I mean, I find it hard to finish that sentence because no one would cut my hair. Shave. Here's a plan B. Shave your head. No one gives a fuck. And then, you will nominally be able to check that off your list and say, you know what? I kept on going.
But people would probably they wouldn't even take an action that small. They would maybe be frozen in fear or in paralysis psychologically. I'm seeing here Weenus Grabber mentioned John Travolta. It says he's a wild card. And it's interesting that you mentioned John Travolta because there has been a long rumor. There's been a rumor that he's gay, secretly gay. And I knew a guy who was in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Orlando, Florida, who ran into John Travolta in the locker room. And John Travolta was just wearing a towel and struck up a conversation with my friend and just tried to get him to engage him in a conversation. And it just seemed a little strange. I mean, whenever a guy in the gym kind of just wants to chat, and he's a complete stranger, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's nothing to it, but it just seems like if John Travolta, if that's who he really is and the world's going to end, come out with it already, do a Saturday Night Fever, but do it a gay Saturday Night Fever. And don't do it on film. Just
if the world's ending and you're John Travolta and you're gay, throw together a low budget feature with a script similar, almost identical to Saturday Night Fever, and just put together a production crew and just start putting the film together, and the rest will follow. Do something. Do anything, Nightcrawlers. Build your path forward. If there's so many paths towards Armageddon right now. But you know what? If you're close to exercising that poltergeist that will give that family peace, even if at that point the family's basically saying we're gonna go run out into the streets and just loot.
Yeah, we're gonna be poltergeists here in a second.
Stick to your task. Finish your project.
Yeah, because not only is there sort of a pride in that and a dignity to that, but also you never know. We could be the ones that survive. Wouldn't that be a real kick in the pants? Lindsay Lohan and Amy Schumer and Barack Obama and Chris
and the rest
Kattan.
of the GOP.
They all get eliminated, and then we are in our bunker sealed off from the rest of the world, and we're here to start the world again. And then at that point it is going to be complex because we'll have to form new sort of hierarchies, and no fatties. I don't want to have sex with a super fat woman if I can
and
avoid
who's
it,
going to be
but,
the new Speaker of the House now that Amy Schumer's gone? Elaine from Seinfeld? Maybe?
There's no telling.
Is it going to be Kramer from Seinfeld or Elaine from Seinfeld? I don't know. But you need, yes, it's absolutely true. You must respect as a Nightcrawler, as a paranormal investigator, you must respect your existence enough to say, I don't want to have to look Kramer from Seinfeld in the eye and say, I freaked out a little bit when I found out that the moon was crashing into the planet, because Kramer's going to look at you and say, you're a big piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, and all those kind of people, I feel like, are the ones that will actually end up surviving. I mean, it's like cockroaches and alligators are the only thing that can survive a nuclear holocaust. Well, guess what else can survive? A Nightcrawler. And I do mean the worm, but I mean, we don't know. Maybe the symbolic Nightcrawlers could survive as well. If we all hunker down and just put our nose to the grindstone and keep marching forward, starting today.
We need spiritually. Not every Nightcrawler is going to make it to that other side, Eric. That other side meaning post Armageddon. But many of us will.
And we need a plan to how we're going to deal with the grief of losing some other Nightcrawlers.
Yeah.
Because if we're all wiped out at the same time, well, what are you going to do? But if only a few of us are wiped out and then the other ones survive, I mean, like, Alex, if you were wiped out and I survived, I would have a great amount of guilt, and I would contemplate taking my own life. But then I would say, no, he would want me to carry on, and I would do that.
Yep.
And then I would gather together as many women as I possibly could, and I would try and grab as many resources for myself as I possibly could, and then sort of build a perimeter around all that stuff in order to kind of lock it down, so that bandits and looters didn't come and try and take it away from me. So
Let's pick a well understood model, right? For post Armageddon. You're a Nightcrawler. You've survived. With you survives some knowledge of the ages, some knowledge of the arcana, the obscure, and of course the truth that, you know, ghosts are everywhere. Well, what is your first move? I think you're going to put together some kind of pseudo city, right? You're some sort of village analog, right? Whether it's here's one possible model. In 28 Days Later, there's that weird British fucking army general who's just like calls all the soldiers who live in the mansion like my boys. Like that.
That's
don't,
one.
I want to say off the bat, like, don't do that. It's so fucking weird.
Unless you find it necessary, and unless it truly is the only way to create order, and then do it.
Yeah, it's a great option. Another option is more of what you are describing, which is kind of like the Mad Max Thunderdome idea. Or not Thunderdome, kind of the new Mad Max, right? Just kind of you're kind of just
like an open world Mad Max.
Right. But but like basically you have the option of becoming sort of a dread lord. Just like a lord who rules by dread.
And even that word is cool, so it's kind of seductive to think about that.
Yeah,
option.
like, I mean, it's sort of like like I could imagine people. It's like people would sort of carry you out in the way that like an Egyptian pharaoh would be carried around on, like almost like a, you know,
a litter.
Yeah, like it's almost it almost is. Yeah, it's like a. It's like they don't have wheels, so they have to use people, but somehow it's steampunk in a way.
Well, the hippie Steve says, I prefer something like the Shire. I want to live in a hobbit hole. Yeah, well, we'd all love that, but chances are when the nukes begin to fall, I mean, about 3 weeks from now, where Donald Trump calls Vladimir Putin and they're both like, yeah, you ready to let's do this? And then all the thermonuclear mushroom clouds start erupting, you're not going to have some picturesque hobbit hole with your 23Zs and you're eating your elven crackers in some pristine Shire. You're going to be living at the bottom of a shithole that is got a trash can on top, and your clothes are going to be made out of the skins of the guy you went to college with. So buckle up. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just merely saying, like, let's live in the real world.
See, the thing is they're not scared. Nightcrawlers don't get scared because we can't acknowledge our emotions, and we wouldn't, and even if we could, we wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't tell anybody. So you can't get scared if you can't prove I'm scared of anything. Prove it.
Well, we're not talking about you in particular.
I was speaking on behalf of all the Nightcrawlers. Prove any of us Nightcrawlers have ever been afraid of anything.
I mean, haven't some of them like messaged us saying that they were like pinned down by shadow people in the middle of the night? Yep. They were like horrified.
And we deleted those messages.
Well, there's probably a few in the Discord.
Well, let's get rid of those.
Well, in fact, let me just look. Dr. Watney posted on October 3rd, 2018, that her mother and her went to go check out a place on a drizzly, foggy fall afternoon, and they heard a blood-curdling scream, and she said we stood frozen in silence for a few moments, heart pounding in our ears. And so, I mean, you know, that's, I get, you asked me to prove it, so I guess that seems like proof.
And I'm going to rebound from that, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say, and this is a teachable moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because was I proven wrong just now? Yes. What am I going to do? Am I going to give up? No. I'm going to say loudly and proudly, good. Fuck you. Kiss my ass, for starters, and then fuck off when you're done.
Okay, well,
I wasn't saying that to you. I was just sort of yelling it.
Okay.
Just kind of clearing the air.
Yeah. Well, and that anger is going to serve you well once you're fighting off marauders in a wasteland, assuming we live past the certain apocalypse that is almost upon us. I want to ask you, by the way, Alex, I feel like the title, I mean, the design around our stream is really cool looking, by the way. You did a good job on it.
Thank you.
The title, yeah, sure. The Dark of the Night and then the topic thing. I feel like it wants to be centered a little bit more.
You want me to jump on that now?
Well, no. I mean, not unless it seems like there's a lull, and then that's something worth doing.
I took a Photoshop class in college, and I learned a dozen shortcuts and techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody tells me what to do with that stuff I know. Okay?
Oh, well.
And I'm not mad. I'm just saying the God's honest truth, which is that if you ever ask me to change something again,
you're a teddy bear, and we'll just kind of.
I'm a teddy bear, and I've got stuff I've got tons of stuff inside me.
You're like a Build-A-Bear. And by the way, one time I saw one of those Build-A-Bear. They've got like a Build-A-Bear. I don't even know how to describe it. It was a Build-A-Bear store, and then right inside it was a box on wheels, and inside there was stuffing, like white cotton that was being churned, and then there was a Build-A-Bear bear sitting on top of this box. And I guess it was meant to say, like, look, isn't it fun? It was almost like a cotton candy. But in reality, if you think about the fact that this bear, its guts and stuffing, its guts are stuffing, and it's being churned around. And it made me think, like, what if this was a person, a little person sitting on top of this machine, and it was human guts just being churned underneath it? It was a disturbing image, and I don't necessarily expect you to have anything to say about that, but what we were just talking about sort of evoked that image. And I guess maybe if I could try a slick way of steering it back in the direction of a conversation, I would say, is it possible, Alex, at what sort of current events sort of give you the impression that the guts of all humanity may soon be churned up in the machinery of circumstance.
There are intellectuals, right? I mean, current events. I'm going to take a slightly. This seems a little bit like a dodge because this is a little bit more of an evergreen answer than I think you were looking for. Let me put it this way. There are very intelligent people like Ray Kurzweil who make, outside of some sort of very specific predictions of certain dates that seem kind of unjustified. In general, they make very convincing arguments about how logistically we're building blocks very quickly towards a state in which we will not necessarily lead to our destruction in so many words, but lose control as the most powerful force on the planet, intelligent force on the planet.
And you're talking about specifically about the rise of AI.
The singularity. I would say the rise of AI is the. I want to say it is kind of a current event because it's the most novel form of and when people in the Cold War and still to this day when we imagine a nuclear bomb going off, it's a terrible image, but it's also something that we can imagine clearly because it's been seen already. We don't know what really AI would look like, so it's very scary to think about. At the same time, I love and this sounds like a contradiction as a paranormal investigator. I love my Amazon Alexa. And I love saying, Alexa, dim the lights 25%. And it'll just dim a little bit. And I'll draw the curtain and I'll take a nap with the lights on.
Look, it is a real head scratcher. I mean, what do you do with all these cool gadgets? I can't afford a Tesla, but I would totally drive one. If I could afford one of those Boston Dynamics Robo Dogs, I would definitely buy one, and I would kind of play with it, and I'd make it do all the things a dog could do, except I would also probably program it to sort of be an armed sentry and guard my car while I'm asleep. But nevertheless, I mean, it doesn't matter how cool those things are. We are aiding and abetting the end of the world, the singularity, as you say. I love my Amazon Alexa, and Eric, try to take that thing away from me. But every moment we use it, it's handing raw data over to what essentially is the mother and father of the real Terminator. Yeah. It's handing raw data over to the raw dog. Who's gonna raw dog us.
What's happening and these are kind of closing thoughts at this point. We'll get to our closing thoughts in a second, but what is happening right now that makes you think Armageddon's approaching?
Well, it seems like there's sort of a shifting matrix of political alliances that are unlike the political alliances that we've been used to for the duration of our lives. I mean, the Cold War is long gone. World War II and a sort of a bilateral superpower arrangement that the entire globe is sort of orbiting around, that's all long gone. Now it's a bunch of sort of competing regional powers that are positioning themselves much in the same way that the powers of the world were positioned in contrast to one another before World War One. I think that, and so any kind of a a world war would be just a pretty terrible thing. I mean, and there's so many unknowns, technological unknowns. I mean, AI, as you spoke of, robotics, how that would be used in war, how like space combat would function. I mean, we're going to have a space force. How would it work when the Chinese are blasting our satellites, communication satellites, out of the sky? One thing that I've thought about is like EMP bombs that would sort of destroy the electronics in a certain part, a certain radius around where that thing is dropped. That's why my sister, she was talking about, why don't we digitize all our photographs and throw all our photographs in the trash, our family's photographs? And I was like, well, no, because if there's an EMP bomb, then all we'll have is those physical photographs, and we would have set fire to them in the yard. So those are the things that keep me up at night. And frankly, I'll probably be up all night tonight thinking about that.
And I just want to add what's so much more frightening about sort of a I'll call it a mortal on mortal war, right? An all human war, is it's so it's not really that fantastical in a way that sort of is. It doesn't prove that there's a higher power. It doesn't prove that there is something beyond. The final war, to differentiate a coming world war versus the final war that we are prepared for. When I see that army of Frankensteins and blueberries sort of marching towards me and my own, when I see Count Dracula riding an elephant from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I mean, they're all going to be there. The Gandalfs, the Robocops, the Zoolanders.
Yeah, it's sort of a phalanx, like a Greek phalanx. Like they're all wearing the same sort of classical Greek armor with the shield and the spear and the helmet, but it's like Colossus from the X-Men next to like Dumbledore.
Yeah. Yeah, don't mess with the Zohan.
and Satan is there just as a soldier for some reason. You'd think he'd be more of a general, but he's just kind of marching along with everybody else. When I see that army approaching me, and I'd be like, well, there's definitely a heaven. There's so much crazy shit out there that only, that when I say to people that I believe all that there is something higher, people say you're a stupid jerk who's full of shit, and whatever your religion is, I don't like it, and I don't like you, and even if that, and this is them saying this to me, even if they're like, I'd be gladly be considered anti-Semitic if that's what was required for me to not like you, because I don't like you, Alex.
Yeah, and then they'll say, and you're fired, if assuming that it's your employer.
I've been fired on the basis of my religion from every single job I've ever worked.
And it's not a religion, really. It's just a very clear, explicit telling of what will end up happening based on a series of discrete facts.
Yeah, and that's why I'm always really late to work.
You're reviewing the most important thing that anybody could
it's like Alex, why were you 7 hours late to work? And I say, because I was reviewing my texts. And my not text on a phone, like my sort of tomes.
Yeah. Well, if that's not good enough for the powers that be at rallies then I don't know how.
Yeah,
to
if I
please
can't
those
hold
people.
down if I can't show up 9 hours late to work at my shift at Checkers because I was sort of memorizing my personal diaries, then I guess I'm fucking helpless.
Yeah, then what do you want? And that goes back to people that what we were talking about. People they're uncomfortable with sort of overweight night cowboys saving the day. They want Chris Hemsworth and Ridley Scott and Boba Fett to all the the hotties to save the day. Well, yeah, that's not who's gonna come in at the last moment. It's gonna be a couple of guys that maybe should eat not as many double bacon McCheeseburgers.
I mean, it makes me want to just roll up everything in my house in one big cart. I'd have to go out and buy this carpet, but roll up all of my possessions in the same carpet and just slam it into the wall.
Yeah. Hippie Steve says Bradley Cooper can't play every role. Well, you're darn right. And when the final war comes, Bradley Cooper's going to be sucking on Lady Gaga's finger tip in some sort of a recording studio, crying. They're going to be doing that, and Alex and I are going to be writing just humpback whales with just baseball bats into the
it's
fray.
gonna look like a sort of a like a comedian's Instagram profile picture from 2009. It's gonna be less like a unicorn, like with a rainbow behind it. It's gonna be like Neil Patrick Harris in like the Harold and Kumar sequel, but it's gonna be fucking horrifying to our enemies because we really will be riding real unicorns with real rainbows as like their exhaust trail, and we'll have swords, and I mean we'll just both look like awesome Arnold Schwarzeneggers with just like double like tons of guns and knives and like just so many like weapons and so much armor.
Yeah, we have countless drawings of these things. Notebooks upon notebooks just filled up with just basic line drawings of all this stuff.
We have to do an episode soon on the Final War. We have done thousands of drawings of every single moment of the Final War.
Yeah, I mean, I have like literally probably 4 or 5 notebooks that are just weapons, just all the different weapons that we're going to be having and holding on to. And one will be like guns, and one will be knives, and then there'll be a page where I mix the guns and the knives, and I have some grenades. So we'll show everybody all of that stuff sometime.
Man, we got to come down for a landing. Nightcrawlers, with arms wide open, I reach out to you and I say, do not fear the end. Don't fear the end. Don't, I'm not going to say don't fear the Reaper because that would be fucking stupid. Because just because rhythmically, just sort of, what I was just saying before that just kind of reminds me of saying don't fear the Reaper. I only brought it up just in case you thought I was going to say that. I've now said it because I just thought it would, at this point, it so felt to me like I was going to say don't fear the Reaper that I just had to point out that I was not going to say that. And I've completely derailed.
No, that's a really good point.
Eric, you thought I was going to say don't fear the Reaper, didn't you?
Well, whether you were or whether you weren't, I mean, the point is don't give in to the obvious pressures that are luring you to put off either your preparation for the Armageddon that's certainly on its way, or that's going to put off using your life today in the way that maximizes the joie de vivre that is inside of each of us. And if that joie de vivre comes from, it's a dopamine dump after you eat, just shove a bunch of chicken fingers from Hardee's into your mouth and you're just munching on them. Or whether it's like finding an old woman in the library and going back to her house and saying, can I extract spiritual forces from you and from this place? Then each of those things are totally legitimate, and do them now.
Find your path, Nightcrawlers. Find your strength. Choose your place of expertise. Choose your project and stick to it. It does not matter what happens in this world. You must say, and not because it's a Bon Jovi lyric. You must say this, it's my life. And you know what? I'll say this right now. Fuck, Bon Jovi. I'm not fuck Bon Jovi because, he can write a song if he wants. But that is such the fact that I can't say it's my life without evoking Bon Jovi. Like, Don't Fear the Reaper, that's fine, Like, that's not something I would say. But it's my life. I want to be able to say it's my life and not remind people of Bon Jovi. So, so again, not fuck Bon Jovi, but it is frustrating.
Well, the good news is that the number of people that will even remember that Bon Jovi said or wrote that song after a 50 megaton fusion bomb goes off in Mexico City is going to be minimal. So we'll have the opportunity to sort of reset the world. What I would encourage you Nightcrawlers to do, if there's one sort of takeaway, it would be whatever you do for work in the middle of your job, tomorrow, the next day, all next week, spend a couple of hours drawing in a loose leaf notebook, pen drawings of all the weapons that you're going to have when in the final war, and just see if that doesn't sort of start you on a path towards somewhere.
That's a great homework assignment. This week, take a little time, illustrate the weapons or some of them that you will have after the end of the world as a point of inspiration, as a point of stability.
Yeah, and post them in the Discord, and we'll show them on next week's show. If you come up with some really great weapons or pages of weapons, which is typically what I do. I'll do an entire page.
And keep in mind the fine print that Eric just said out loud, which is that post them on the Discord and we'll share them on the show if you come up with some great ones. It's sort of a huge caveat.
And it's a loophole that gets us out of actually doing that. But do it anyway.
Nightcrawlers, we'll be back next week. Thank you for tuning in. This is another one of our diaspora, our in-between episodes before we find our permanent studio setup. Thank you for hanging out with us through this discussion, Eric. It's been a passionate discussion for me.
Yeah. And also me. But I think that we've really come to a place where we took a deep look at issues we both care about. That's very important. Nightcrawlers, make sure and tune in on Monday when I'll be doing I'll be doing a show on Monday, and I'll look forward to seeing you then, and then we'll look forward to seeing you next Wednesday for another great Dark
So Eric,
night.
keep us updated in the Discord, like primed, because I want to be there along with all the other Nightcrawlers, just sort of like, not, with like I'll be watching, not in a weird way, but I will be, just sitting here watching you.
Well, I guess that's good. That's great. Thanks, folks. Thanks for watching.
From the deepest depths of